Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Talk Solar. I am your hostess, Beth Bond, Curator of Sustainable News at Southeast Green, and we are going to be talking about solar in Florida and financing today with Kenneth LaRoe, who will be joining us in a couple of seconds. But before we get to Kenneth, we're going to hear from our sponsors, Hanna Solar.
Hanna Solar is the largest solar integrator in Georgia and one of the largest in the Southeast, with installation on schools, farms, churches, data centers, and a variety of commercial and residential projects. Hanna Solar will provide the best solar system for your varied needs. If you have a solar project in the Southeast, then Hanna Solar is your partner for completing the job. Visit Hanna Solar at www.hannasolar.com for more information.
Today's guest, Ken LaRoe, has been around many successful banking ventures in Central Florida, and he's also founded two in Central Florida. And following the sale of his bank, Florida Choice Bank, Ken set out with his wife on a lengthy soul-searching journey across the U.S. in a mini motorhome. Along the way, he began reading the book his brother had given him, Let My People Go Surfing by Yvon Chouinard, founder of Patagonia. Upon reading the book, LaRoe became convinced that business can be holistic. In addition to making a profit, business can have a positive impact on society. Ken has been a committed environmentalist all his life, and he strongly believes that efficient, wise use of our resources, conservation, is a fundamental virtue and economic necessity. In 2009, after being granted the last bank charter in the state of Florida, LaRoe opened First Green Bank with a team of experienced and successful local bankers who have been with him throughout much of his career. All were eager to be a part of this local bank with a global mission which endeavors to do the right thing for the environment, its people, its community, and its shareholders. As the largest shareholder, chairman, and CEO of First Green Bank, LaRoe holds up to turn Central Florida green one customer at a time. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, how are you?
Good. We are so happy to have you on the show today. We had you on my other radio show, Speaking of Green, which is for Southeast Green, but today we're going to have you here talking about solar in Florida so the Clean Technica audience can sort of get a feel for what's going on. Before we get into sort of the meat of solar in Florida, tell us a little bit more about the bank.
Okay. Well, just in general, or where we are now, or that sort of thing?
Just tell them about your mission, because you've done some really cool things at the bank that is not your normal bank experience.
Well, we were the first bank on the East Coast of the United States with a stated values proposition, and the values proposition encompasses many things, which has evolved over time, and I didn't really know what it meant when we opened. I'm not so sure I know what it means now, but I'm understanding it more and more. We were asked to join the Global Alliance for Banking on Values in 2012, and I was just elected to the board of directors of that organization, which has really been an eye-opener for me to be exposed to banks internationally that have at their core a values proposition, whether it's social equity, micro-lending in Bangladesh, or an environmental focus such as we have. It's really helped me flesh out exactly what does it mean to be a values-based financial institution.
Awesome. So you have also done some sort of bricks and mortar things. So I believe you have the first LEED certified bank. Well, I know it's in Central Florida, but is it for the whole state?
Well, when we built our headquarters building about 3 years ago, it is built and was certified LEED Platinum, and it was the second privately owned LEED Platinum building in the state of Florida total. At the time we built it, there's some more now, but not very many more. And it was only one of like 12 LEED Platinum buildings in the state. So that was a real first, or really out there, and it's been an incredible building. It's been transformational, and I never knew how transformational a building could be for my coworkers, for the customers. It's really been a neat experience. Our other buildings, we either try to, if we purchase them, we try to upgrade them to LEED standards. Our Orlando office is in a leased building, and we did a LEED interior build out. It's LEED certified. So we've tried to do it with all the buildings and make an impact. And it's also a statement for our customers and a huge learning experience for our coworkers. They better understand what the process is, what it does, what it means. We also pay any of our coworkers that want to become a LEED Green Associate or LEED AP. We'll pay for the testing, we'll pay for the prep course, and then after they receive that designation, we give them a $1,000 annual raise. So we've got 7 people on staff now that are either LEED APs or LEED Green Associates.
Which sort of helps what we're going to really focus our time on today, because you do get LEED points for solar, and you started a very sort of innovative solar, I would say loan or leasing program?
Loan
a couple of years ago. Tell us about the loan, because so many banks, and when we talked a couple of years ago, I mean, it was really, but so many banks have just been so resistant to actually providing financing for solar projects.
Yes, they have, and what was the genesis of our program was we talk to people and talk about solar and the benefits, and again, we're pretty well versed, and we've got a number of staff members who are very well versed in it, and there was always the hurdle of, well, there's no savings in it. If you wanted to do it because you're concerned about global climate change and the planet, and you have the money, that's one thing, but if we can't appeal on a business decision basis or a cost savings basis, I don't think we succeed. We don't get anywhere. So we rolled out a program that was 10-year fixed at 5.95%, which is a very, very competitive rate, usually considerably lower than any of the finance companies that are offering the financing, and it is fixed for 10 years, and we don't require a second mortgage or a junior mortgage on the real estate. We just file a UCC financing statement on the solar panels. That worked pretty well, and we had some success with it. We decided to take it one step further, and we have a 501c3 foundation that we started called the First Green Foundation, and what we decided to do was significantly fund it with bank profits, and we contribute 2% of the bank net profits every year to the foundation, and we decided to give solar grants to anybody who put solar on their house. It was just free money, and we've done a bunch, dozens and dozens of those grants, some of them in collaboration with the loan, and some of them were people that were paying for it out of cash. We were still getting objections that the energy savings wouldn't offset the loan payment, so just last month we rolled out a significant modification to our program, and it's now a 20-year amortization. So the payments are dramatically reduced. If we took a representative sample of a home in Central Florida using one of the local power companies' per kilowatt rate and calculated the electric bill, which comes out to something on the order of $240 for this representative average Central Florida house, and the loan payment is $229. So you're actually putting $10 a month in your pocket at today's energy rates with this program. So it's virtually become a no-brainer. You have to do it. There's no reason not to do it.
Right. Well, that's really awesome, and I just love it that that y'all really put your money in where your mouth was in regards to even providing grants to help people get solar on their houses. So you're really creating, you're really changing the way people think about solar in your area. Tell us. So Florida has a bit of a challenge because they're a bit behind on the solar bandwagon in regards to supporting it with incentives and legislation and things like that, and they've got a couple of detorious, I'm trying to sound like a lawyer, I'm going to mess it up, but with the legislation that sort of even blocks really broad spread solar. Tell us what kind of reaction you've had in the community, either the solar community in Florida or in your own community, about you sort of really supporting solar so much.
That's an interesting question. The reaction in the community is we just wish we could do more, and there would be more people that realize the savings and what it can do to help the planet. We set a goal of 500 kilowatts this year on roofs, and then the goal goes to 1 million kilowatts the year after. And we're behind on that, but we're starting to catch up with the new program we rolled out. And so a lot of it for us is experimental as much as experiential. And what's it going to take to set the goal? What's it going to take to reach that goal? And we're just going to keep tweaking and tweaking until we figure it out. But as far as the legislation and legislative or executive support for solar in Florida, it's non-existent. And I'm a lifelong Republican. I've registered Republican when I was 18 years old. But we've had Republican control of our legislature for 20 years now. And there was a joke some pundit wrote recently that in Florida, the Republicans have done in 15 years what it took the Democrats 85 years to do, and that is to completely corrupt the system, completely change it to their benefit only, to the benefit of big business. And now we've got a governor who is not a good person and also completely antithetical to anything sustainable. He just met recently with a bunch of climate scientists. They finally got a forum with him, and he left after half an hour. And they asked, what his position was on climate change, and he said something to the effect of, "I'm not a scientist." So it's bleak in the state. I've always joked when I do a talk that we're in the Pleistocene, and we're inhabited by Neanderthals, and that never goes over very well. But it's pretty disturbing. And if we don't, and our former governor, Charlie Crist, he was very conscious of climate change, very concerned about it. He is now the nominee on the Democratic side. He switched parties, and if he doesn't get elected in this next election, and Florida's quite frankly doomed. I met recently with Tom Steyer, the fellow that started Next Gen Climate in California, and he's kind of the anti-Koch brothers for anything rational, really. And he pointed out to me that the Metro-Dade, Miami area in Florida is the most vulnerable urban center in the world to rising sea level. So we've got this contradictory situation of legislators who are completely anathema to doing anything rational and sustainable, and the largest urban area in the world that's the most vulnerable to climate change. It's pretty frightening.
Yeah, and we of course have been following the issue on Southeast Green as there's some nonprofits that send us the news about it, and it's really discouraging because after all, Florida is named the Sunshine State. So
Yes.
The fact that not only is sustainability floundering, but something that is for those of us in Georgia, which, we're also a very red state, have seen such great success with implementing more solar, and Georgia Power has just announced another 30-megawatt negotiation with a military base in Georgia. I mean, if Georgia Power can put 120 megawatts on military bases alone, forget about the 750 megawatts they're implementing throughout the state. It just seems sort of crazy that your governor isn't sort of picking up on the message that there might be some financial viability. Because if it wasn't financially viable, we wouldn't be doing it. That is very clear.
No, and at $3.50 a kilowatt, it's very, very financially viable. And of course, our legislature and governor's pushing to allow fracking in South Florida. It's the nuttiest, craziest idea ever. We derive all of our drinking water from the Floridan aquifer, and they're even considering something that would impair the aquifer, and which is already impaired because of irrational development and irrational water usage in the state. So it's just nuts. It's one of those things where you sit back and go, somebody's crazy.
Right. Well, the good news is you get to be the shining light, right, of Florida, of how you can be sustainable and how you can build lead and be highly successful. So are you doing, to sort of support this stuff for solar, are you doing sort of education services, or did you sort of make an announcement and people were so excited they sort of stormed the Bastille?
Well, we're trying everything, honestly. We have a very, very good PR firm that helps us push stuff out, and we do get a lot of coverage on that. We're currently, I was just meeting with my marketing director a minute ago, developing a print ad that's going to roll out in the newspapers, the magazines. We do all the social media stuff. We speak at a lot of functions. We attend a lot of functions. We're really trying to cover every angle to spread the gospel, if you will. Our Winter Park office that we just opened in April, which is doing phenomenally well, it was a rehab of an old building, and it's slated to be LEED Gold. We're working on it right now. As you know, it takes a long time for the LEED approval process. But we also are trying to make that building net zero, and it's not quite there. It's real close. I think we've got 60 or 65 kW on that roof, and our entire drive-through has none on it. We left it. We wired it to add additional if we need to get to net zero. So we're probably going to add more on the drive-through to be able to attain net zero on that building.
Now, I have family down in your area, and I'm just curious how other businesses or how other banks are reacting to all this, great work you're doing.
From the total values perspective, or for just solar?
Well, both. I mean, I was sort of thinking that the total value perspective, but we can always, talk about solar too.
Well, my dream was, and it's a dream that's unfulfilled, is that we could kind of develop the owner's manual for sustainable financial institutions, and if anybody else wanted to go there, we'd jump in and help, of course at no cost and whatever it took, and I've had nobody interested in doing that, so I don't know if that dream will be fulfilled or not. I get a lot of attaboys. That's great. It's a great niche, and I even get that's the best marketing idea I've ever heard, which is kind of just rips my heart out that people would even think that. So I guess the big picture, not having the outcome I'd hoped for in my peers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, I'm assuming because of the localness of your bank that you do participate in sort of state banking associations, And are you seeing any kind of discussion about solar financing there, or is it still just off the radar?
Yes, off the radar completely.
Off the radar.
We did last year receive the award for the most sustainable bank in America by the American Bankers Association. That was cool. So somebody really cool. There is noticing. We did get the cover of the Florida Bankers magazine this month with a picture of me standing next to our solar panels. That's cool. It's only taken 5 years, but it's cool. So I don't know. It's just bankers are generally a different breed.
Right. And
we do have another bank very, very conservative. And we do have another bank in Florida that is values based. Just in general, they didn't necessarily set out to do that, but they are, and that's a C1 bank out of St. Petersburg, and they just did an IPO, and they're now listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And it's a very, very cool bank. The CEO's name is Trevor Burgess, and I'm not trying to do an ad for them, but they're just, maybe that is the other bright spot. There is something happening, and it's happening in Florida, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So is there a limit to how much financing you can do for solar?
I mean, probably at some point there's a practical limit. There's not so much a regulatory limit, except that our overall loan limits. There's some good elements to the program. It's not real estate, and in Florida that's a huge issue because the regulators, rightfully so, are concerned about real estate concentrations after the last meltdown. As you know, Georgia and Florida were the epicenter of the meltdowns because all of the lending was the out-of-control real estate lending. But so that's a nice aspect. It's a different type of loan. It's a different collateral, different security, but not really. We would like to do some large commercial projects, but we can't do anything more than $8 million at our current capitalization level. I think it's a pretty safe asset class. It's a bunch of small loans to individual borrowers. So, it's not like doing one $8 million real estate loan that can go bad.
Right. And are your customers sort of coming back and telling you? I think the thing that's sort of funny about solar is that I spend a lot of time with the solar community up here in Georgia, and solar's so sexy. But when you start driving around and seeing it, boy, it's not as sexy as because it's crickets, right? There's no moving parts. It just sits on the roof. It just does its little blue shiny thing. And so you do sort of get to the point where, like, if you've seen, one solar, you've seen it all kind of thing. And so I'm just curious if there's, like, some type of, solar enthusiastic group from the folks who are getting loans, or they just thank you very much for the loan and off they go.
Thank you very much and off they go. There's no missionary zeal in any of this. Maybe there should be. My dream is that people will drive into Central Florida and they'll go, my gosh, look at all the solar. I wonder where that came from. And then somebody will say, well, there's this cool little bank, First Green Bank, and they really took it on. That's my dream. So even if it is crickets and it's just sitting there doing its blue thing, I'd like to have a lot of blue thing going on.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I interviewed a guy down in Orlando area, big big pastor at a church down there, and he goes, "You're a prophet, so maybe I qualify as the zealous missionary on solar, because even though I've seen, hundreds of rooftops, and I was taking someone around Monday on showing them just what's done in my little city of 19,000 here. Clearly, even though it's crickets, it's still, for me, it's still exciting. It's exciting to think about the potential and the possibility. So we're at
was that Joel Hunter?
Yeah, it was
by
Joel
chance
Hunter.
the past.
Yes.
Yeah, he's one of the founding board members of my bank.
Oh, hey, small world. Well, you tell me that you talked to the prophet up in Atlanta about solar.
I will.
He may remember me.
I will.
So, because they did that video, they did that amazing Creation Care video, and so we interviewed him about that. And for Talk Solar, people don't know this, but my folks on Speaking of Green and Southeast Green know that I'm very involved in the faith community, and I'm very involved in trying to get solar on churches. Your goal is just people see blue when they come to Central Florida. My goal is that every faith-based institution that makes sense will have solar. So,
awesome.
Just little goals, right?
Yes, exactly.
Totally achievable, tiny goals. So, that's why I had someone look at me and say, you just don't think the way I do, and I'm like, I know. I'm just a solar geek.
Yeah, I have that problem some too.
Yeah. So anyway, well, we are out of time, so I want to make sure that if someone wants a loan or if they want to talk to you more about what First Green Bank is doing, that they know how to reach out to you. So if you'll give us some contact information, please.
Sure, absolutely. FirstGreenBank.com, all spelled out and run together. My email is ken@firstgreenbank.com.
Great. Hey, Ken, thank you so much for being a guest today. It's been great getting caught up with you and hearing about all the great work you're doing.
You're so welcome.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I just, maybe Talk Solar is just about me just getting excited about solar. I just really love to hear the stories of people all over the country doing solar. And even in a very negative environment that Florida is, it is so sad what's happening in Florida when they have such great potential and such great opportunity and such a large residents, a population base to serve. However, I have faith that things will change. So next week we will be looking forward to speaking to someone else from solar. And if you ever want to be a guest, just drop me a line at Beth@southeastgreen.com, or you can hit me up on Twitter at BethSCGreen, and we'd love to interview you and hear your solar story too. We're signing out, and you can find episodes of Talk Solar on Clean Technica, our partner, and we really appreciate the team over at Clean Technica for letting us partner with them. Have a great solar week.